All right, time for the thrilling conclusion to the volume lesson. So, now we're going to talk about cylinders and cones. And as we learned with the water demo, cylinders and cones are related in the exact same way that prisms and pyramids are. So the right cylinder is 3 times, let's write this, 3 times the volume of a cone if it has the same base and height. Remember, that is a requirement. They have to have the same base and height. Or a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. So remember, a cylinder is a prism, so it's area of the base times the height, and the base is the circle on the bottom, so it's pi r squared times the height. So a cone would be the area of the base times the height, but then divided by 3. So it is pi r squared times the height divided by 3. Or you can write it as 1/3 pi r squared times the height. Both of those are equivalent. Same thing. So let's do a couple of examples. Determine the volume of a cone if the diameter is 14 inches and the slant height is 17 inches. And do this to the nearest cubic inch. So we've got a beautiful cone here. It tells us that the diameter all the way across the bottom is 14 inches. And it tells us that the slant height is 17 inches. And remember, for volume, it's not the slant height that we care about, it is the actual height. So we need to know this height that goes from the center of our circle on the bottom all the way up to the top. So again, we have created a beautiful 90-degree triangle here that we can use Pythagorean theorem. So if the diameter is 14 inches, then the radius is 7 inches. So h squared plus 7 squared equals 17 squared. And again, you should know how to do this on your own. Subtract the 49 from both sides, you get 240, and then square root that. H is the square root of 240, which we could round, but we want to carry all those decimals in our calculator as far as we can. So now that we know the actual height, it's approximately 15.5, by the way, but we can now find the volume of our cone. Area of the base times the height divided by 3. So again, we're pi r squared because the base is the circle, r is the radius, which is 7, so pi times 7 squared, multiplied by the height, which we said is the square root of 240. And then we're going to take that answer and divide it by 3. And again, make sure you have that dividing by 3 in your original formula. Don't just find the volume as if it were a cylinder and then divide by 3 at the end. Show it in your work all the way along. So it says to the nearest cubic inch. So we get 794.9. So to the nearest cubic inch, that would be 795 inches cubed for that cone. Now, if we have a height of 4 and the volume being 205 cubic yards, we need to work backwards to find the radius. So again, we've got a cone, and we know that the height straight to the middle of that circle is 4 yards, and we want to know what is the radius. This time we know the volume. So we can say it's pi r squared times h divided by 3, or area of the base times height, same thing. This time we're going to fill in what we know. So we know the volume is 205, so we're going to fill that in for the v. We do not know what the r is, that's what we are trying to find, but we do know that the height is 4. And then we have to divide it all by 3. So now we just have to do the algebra to work backwards. So the first thing we want to get rid of is the dividing by 3. Well, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. We have to do the same on both sides. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that cancels out. So we get 615 is pi r squared times 4. So our next step to get the r all by itself is to divide out the pi and the 4. And again, same thing on both sides to keep it equal. Pi divided by pi is 1, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So all that we've got left on the right-hand side is r squared. And I can't really figure out what this is because we're just going to carry all that into our calculator. 615 divided by 4 pi. And then we're going to square root that to figure out what the radius is. So you take the square root of that, and it says to the nearest yard. You round that answer to the nearest yard, and you should get 7 yards. All right, so you should be able to work with these formulas to either calculate the volume or work backwards to find any one unknown dimension. So this last question is again a working backwards one, but this one's with a pyramid. Rectangular pyramid can hold 1,250 cubic feet of water. The base is 15 by 10. What's the height? So the premise is the same. We've got a pyramid. This time we know what the volume is, but we do not know what the height is. Because it is a pyramid, we know that the formula is area of the base multiplied by the height divided by 3. So area of the base multiplied by the height divided by 3 because it's a pyramid. We know that the volume is 1,250. The area of the base, well, the base in this case is a rectangle. That's 15 by 10, so 15 times 10. We don't know what the height is. And then we divide by 3. So make sure you can solve this one on your own. If you need to, pause the video and solve it first. Now's your chance. All right, so the first thing we want to do is cancel out the dividing by 3 by multiplying. We get 3,750 is 150h. So this is an easy one. The last step to get h all by itself is to divide out that 150 that's being multiplied by the h. Division is the opposite of multiplication, which leaves us with h being 25 feet. The end. You now know everything there is to know about the volume of cylinders, cones, prisms, pyramids. Congratulations.